One of the things that I have learned in life, Rudy, is that once you have a great experience, right after that great experience, you sometimes really go down to a valley experience. And in our study today, that's what we have. We've gone from the mountaintop of the Transfiguration to a valley where some of the disciples had problems. So let's look at it. This is Luke chapter 9, verse 37. Next day they'd come down from the mountain. There was a great crowd met him. And a man from the crowd shouted, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my only son." Suddenly a spirit seizes him. Once he shrieks, it convulses him, he foams at the mouth, mauls him, he scarcely will leave him. I begged your disciples to cast it out, but they could not. Jesus responded, "You faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you?" He said, "Bring your son here." While he was coming, the demon dashed him to the ground in convulsions. Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the boy, gave him back to his father. They were all astounded. There's a whole lot in those few verses. Really, let's talk about this whole issue of the disciples not being able to help the child. What do you think was going on there?
I think that they were probably trying to command the spirit in their own power.
Okay.
And if you've been in this life for any amount of time, you've seen healing ministries. Maybe you've seen them on TV. Maybe you've seen them in person.
Right.
But I believe that some of what was going on in those healing ministries is commanding things in the leader's own strength.
Right.
And what you were saying about when you have this mountaintop experience, there's usually a reason that you had it, because you're going to have a trial.
Yeah.
And it's going to take the mountaintop experience to finally shock you back to understand that do not fear, because he is with you. And the do not fear gets into this because who's telling you not to fear, and who can really say that? And that you have to become smaller in the picture and let Jesus have his place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's going on here. And Jesus is, I don't think that the attitude that we sometimes read from these words, "Oh faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you and bear with you," are said sarcastically to the people.
Yeah.
I think that, believe me, I've read them that way before.
Right.
But I really believe that Jesus is almost crying.
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, faithless and twisted generation." He's thinking, why does it have to be this way?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long am I to be with you and bear with you? Just watching this is breaking his heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me throw in a couple thoughts here.
Okay.
I have had some spiritual highs, and they were so profound, I wanted to duplicate them. I wanted to have the same experience because it felt so good.
How did you do that?
I didn't. I tried in my own strength. This kind of goes back to what you were talking about a minute ago. I tried in my own strength to duplicate them, but they're not repeatable. I've had prayer experiences that were powerful, like one day of the week, and then to come back the next day to try to have that same experience. They're not repeatable. God doesn't want us to just live off of those spiritual highs. And so that is a thought for me. I think that another thought for this is Jesus is still training his followers.
Okay.
They've only been with him at this point in time, maybe a little over a year or a year and a half. And I thought about myself, I've been with the Lord in training for 50 years. and I'm still making some pretty major league problems and failures. And so if the Lord could say to them, "Oh, faithless generation," what does he say about me?
Well, I think we're all in the same boat, but
Yeah.
I think what you wrote about in your article, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday, is that when there's a mountain before you,
Yes,
basically you end up having to dig.
yes,
You have to be right there and dig into it.
right,
And then because you've had this mountain experience,
right,
you actually can withstand what's underneath it.
yeah, yeah,
And your analogies about you didn't really tell us what had happened when you were younger, but everybody's had these experiences that when we were younger influence what we do today.
Oh, sure.
That's the basis of psychology.
Yeah,
And,
right.
that's why, and I know that that's true too, and that's why I thank God for being my psychologist, because
Yes.
he will always listen to
Right,
me, even
right.
when I'm speaking
Yeah,
garbage.
right. So to go to your point earlier, it's not in Luke's gospel. The other gospels talk about they asked Jesus, "Why couldn't we cast it out?" Jesus said, "This only comes out through prayer," and some versions add "and fasting," and that's a technical note that I'll leave alone. But basically, it goes to what you're saying. If you're not connected with God, you can't do it. And there's electricity around the world to do everything. Electric mixers and vacuum cleaners and radios and cell phones and TVs and everything else. But none of that works. It's all available, but none of that works unless it's plugged in. And we have the great power of God for us, but unless we're plugged in, it isn't going to happen.
Yeah, and we all love our relationships, but relationships are not built in silence.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't be the only one doing the talking.
Yeah. Yes.
We have to sit and listen to the Lord.
Right.
And part of that is reading His Word, because really that is Him talking to you.
Yeah.
And for me, it is really alive.
Yes.
And the life that's in it is that it actually changes every time I read it.
Yes.
It changes the situation. It changes what I've learned. So that's why I've been able to read the Bible so many times, is because it's really not the same.
Right. So true.
One of the things that encourages me is knowing that maybe today I get a new jewel.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
I don't always pick up my Bible hoping to get a jewel, but in the back of my mind, I hope I do.
Yeah. Right. So let me end this up a little bit here real quick. If you read the Gospel of Luke, you're going to see the followers of Jesus on a journey. And the journey doesn't end with the crucifixion or even the resurrection. The journey goes into the book of Acts for these people. And so they're on a journey. Luke draws us, it calls out to us and says, come get on this journey yourself. You can have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Jesus. You can spend time with Him and learn from Him just by picking up this book like Rudy was talking about and letting God speak to you. And there'll be days when He has jewels for you. And obviously when He tells you to do something, you got to do it.
Well, this morning when I was kind of working on what we were going to talk about
Right.
today, I was thinking about your body will not be corrupted.
Yeah.
And, that's Psalm 16.
Right.
And so, I went back and read Psalm 16, and I was wondering what the people 1,000 years before Jesus was born were thinking about that.
Yeah. Right.
Well, when you talk about Luke taking us on the journey with the apostles being taught so that we get to see their metamorphosis,
Right.
we find that, and you say, and you call out the book of Acts, you find out 10 days after Jesus' ascension, 50 days from his resurrection, that they understand Psalm 16 and 110. And
Absolutely.
that can happen for you.
Right.
And we just pray that it will.
Amen. Hey, thanks for being a part today. That's our prayer. We're out of time. God bless you. You have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.